Please greet your neighbor. Neighbor? Today's invocation will be given by Beth Weaver.
That's right. It is good to recognize how different we are. Our talents, our dreams, our backgrounds, our occupations, even our thumbprints and our voice tell us how unique we are. Yet we thank you that we can take these differences and mobilize them for the good through Rotary and for our community. In our differences, we can think the same thoughts and move toward a common goal. Bless this meeting. Thank you for our individuality and for the common goal of Rotary. Amen.
Thank you, Beth. Well, the good news is this is my first week as your president. I only have 44 more meetings with me. It's okay. I can live with that. I'll try. Anyway, I hope that you all had a safe and happy 4th of July. We did have perfect weather. And I know our Worcester fireworks were fantastic. And I just thought that this picture kind of exemplified how today's youth view the fireworks. And I know Matt probably is not happy with me for putting this up with Henry in it, but this is the same guy that was not happy a couple of weeks ago during my induction. So he doesn't like the noise, but he loves the sound and the picture. So that's good. Today we do have a pleasure of welcoming back one of our former exchange students. So you'll get a chance to introduce and hear from her in a few minutes. Something Terry started last year, that if there's something notable that happened on this day, I'll try to tell you. I probably won't have a slide for it, but you will be happy to know that in 1914, Babe Ruth made his major league debut pitching for the Boston Red Sox, and they beat Cleveland 4-3. Okay. On that note, here's Lynn and the Secretary's report.
Thank you, President Greg. Donna Conley has the traveling microphone, and we're going to start right at her table with past President Susan Buckwalter.
My guest today is Nick Pasquarelli. Nick is our local Wayne County Health.
Table right in front, Becky Foster.
My guest today is Kelly Earhart, and she is the general manager at WQAT.
One table across, Mike Davidson.
Good afternoon. My guest today is Paul Stephanie. He's our Vice President of Operations for Viewing Machines.
And we're going to go right across the aisle over here, Brian Boyer.
My guest today is a reporter. She is a court administrator and staff attorney for the Court of Common Police. She also happens to be my wife.
And up front, Kathy McConnell, past President Kathy McConnell.
Happy to introduce Sisters Nazreen and Muna. Nazreen was our exchange student in the 2015 year in France, and she's going to be speaking to us in a little bit here.
And finally, James Fox.
willing to make her point on affiliation with me in which amazing patient wife Stephanie Graham on the college.
Thank you so much, Donna. We have two announcements, one by Robin LaRue Beasley and Courtney Yoder regarding our Meals with a Mission, and after that, James will come up and has a special announcement and introduction.
Good afternoon. Well, it's that time of year. Meals with the Mission will be August 8th, 4 to 7. Dan Pine will be playing. We'll have a 50-50. We're going to have gift baskets, barbecue outside, inside, and to go, kind of like last year. The tickets nicely are still $30 per person, and Courtney's going to tell you about that.
Yeah, so we have tickets here today. You guys, if you don't know, you probably didn't know about it, so I don't have the money on you. But if you plan on selling them or giving them away or using yourself, selling them, you're not selling them, but using them, giving them away, then we're gonna be in the back. You guys can take an envelope. There's 4 tickets. We're asking everybody to take or buy 4 tickets from us. You can pay now if you have the money on you, but you can take them and then you can pay us next time. We can bill your account if you want to. You can send the money to Nina Moore, either too, that's another option. But we'll be here for the next few weeks with the tickets, so come see us and we hope you can all make it. It's gonna be a great event. The weather last year was amazing, so we're hoping for good weather again because a nice new patio out back, we haven't been there, it's phenomenal. So we look forward to it. Thanks.
Wait, are we doing QR?
Oh, yeah, there will be a QR code too. So if you want to buy them online, that would be another option. If you'd rather do it that way, we can do it that way too.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Nez, and it was 7 years ago, which she hasn't changed, and fortunately neither have I. That Nez really, I just want to spend a minute to talk a little bit about the exchange program because of the impact that it had on our family. And Nez coming back 7 years later was like one of my kids coming home from a long vacation. She didn't skip a beat, and even brought her sister, and she fell right into the ridiculousness immediately as well. But to have a member of our family that my kids have all stayed in touch with Nez over the years through social media, and just to have such a wonderfully rich experience with Nez being in our household. She was the quintessential Rotary exchange student. She was on the basketball team, the track team, the cross-country team. She was in choir. So that also as a family gave us the opportunity to participate and engage in our community in a different way that we hadn't. So it's just my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Nez.
Thank you, James. Hi, everyone. So I still do remember some of you. So I was here in 2015, 2016. I was a senior in Worcester High School. And now I'm 23 and I'm studying law, French law. And I want to study then international law so I can get to work. The plan is to work in French embassies as a diplomat. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I always thought I was gonna come back here, and I'm really glad I did. So I get to see my host family again, my host families, and it's been like 3 weeks since I've been in the US, and I have a great time. But I'm really happy that I got to be an exchange student. Since then, I mean, it has changed me in a very good way. Now I have a whole another perspective. And I mean, I would advise any young person to go on exchange. Really, like, it does really change you for the better. And it was such a great year for me that in Worcester I did a lot. I wanted to be involved in a lot of sports. I did like 3 sports, and I was, yeah, like Jim said, in fire, and I made quite a lot of friends, so I'm so happy that now I have friends, I have neighbors, and I have families in another continent. So that's quite amazing, and we'll still keep in touch. And I hope we can make it to Paris too one day. But yeah, I mean, they would come to like watch me during basketball games. They would take me down to their farm, so that was the real American experience. And I mean, and I like that better than doing touristic stuff. I really enjoy meeting people from here, locals, more than just, I don't know, going on the trip anywhere. It was like I was someone from Worcester, like for a year. So yeah, I really like that. So thank you for the Rotary and for my hospitalities and all the people that participated in the program for making it possible for me to explain this. Thank you.
As an appreciation for your time with us today, we'd like to present you with a rendition of the Rotary Wheel with the 4-way test on the back, and hope that you come back to visit us many times.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Great having our best exchange students back. I hope that we can get more of them as time goes on. And it's great seeing this many people here today. Keep bringing guests. We have plenty of food, and the more the merrier. Please support the Meals with a Mission. I think it's important. It's one of our fundraisers, and we want to make sure we turn out and support the club. I do welcome our guests today, Nick, Nez, Mona, Kelly, Stephanie, and Olivia, and Paul. That's a very nice group of guests today. And at this time, our speaker will be introduced by Joe Zecker.
A lifetime resident of Wayne County, Curt Stauffer has a long heart for first responders. After many conversations with Sheriff Hutchinson and numerous meetings with chaplains from other departments, Curt completed his ministerial training and was licensed as a minister in the state of Ohio in August of 2014. He was at the time appointed as staff chaplain of the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. In December of 2016, he completed his Master of Arts degree from Newburgh Theological Seminary in Ministry. He's been a member of the International Conference of Police Chaplains since April of 2014, has continued with the education and training conference provides, the ICPCs, which is the Conference of Police. Annual training covers topics that serve to support the law enforcement officers and their families in an effort to better understand the stresses and responsibilities of law enforcement officers. Curt enrolled and completed the OPOTA, the Police Officer Training Academy, graduated in August of 2017. Shortly after graduation, Curt was commissioned as deputy of the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, where he has served as a patrol deputy as well. In 2020, Curt was the recipient of the Walton Tully Award for Excellence. This award is given to ICPC and the state of Ohio in recognition of excellence in police chaplaincy. Also want to mention too that Curt in his current chaplain position is an unpaid position. Curt has for years funded this important work. And I think we can all agree that the services he provides is greatly needed and valuable to the departments that he serves. Curt is a great heart for his work and is hoping in the near future to do this full time for first responders, chaplains, and work services. Curt.
Well, what a privilege it is to be here with you folks today, to know that you guys care about our community as well. And I guess I get to introduce you to a position that many of you may not even know we have. I get the opportunity to speak to different groups throughout the county, and routinely I find out that, oh yeah, you're the chaplain for the sheriff's office. That's great. How do you minister to the inmates? That's not what I do. We have a chaplain for the inmates, and many of you may have known Lee Anderson. He was with our department for many, many years. He cared for the inmates, and we have had that position for decades. But in 2014, Sheriff Hutchison created the position of a chaplain to care for the deputies themselves, to care for the corrections officers, the dispatchers, the staff, the administration, and those families that sadly were often overlooked. And we historically in law enforcement, in the military, have not done a real good job in caring for the health, mental health, the physical health of our men and women. And so it was a thrill for me to get involved with Sheriff Hutchison in 2013 and then in 2014 to be appointed to this position. But what a chaplain is, for those of you that don't know, is we're licensed ministers to care for, in my case, law enforcement officers. I take training and counseling for myself, so I'm better equipped to care for the unique needs. And law enforcement, we'll get into some of them, but law enforcement have unique needs. And I have given myself to minister to them, to care for them in this service. That's what a chaplain is. And you might think, well, why do we need one? Aren't there many organizations? Aren't there mental health facilities? Isn't there all these different services to help individuals, cops being one of them? Well, sure, there are. And I'm thankful they're there, just like I'm thankful the chaplain is there for the inmates. That's absolutely important. It's critical. But law enforcement, we're special. Okay, I'll just say that. Some of you know law enforcement individuals very well, and you know we're unique. And there's, to me, there's many reasons to have a chaplain, but one I'll draw your attention to is, as law enforcement officers, we're lied to all the time. If you'll let me paint with a broad brush, everybody is trying to hustle you all the time. Now, technically, is that true? Certainly not. But from a cop's perspective, if you go to a call, you go to a domestic, you go to a different setting, who there is going to tell you the unvarnished truth? No one. And I would even suggest, as I was driving here this morning, I'll just ask you folks, you're out driving on one of our beautiful county roads, and I pull in behind you, hit the light bar, pull you over. Good afternoon, I'm Deputy Stauffer of the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. Do you know why I pulled you over? As you're thinking about that, would you be one of those individuals who would share with me the unvarnished truth? Well, I was well exceeding the posted speed limit. You might have seen me change lanes and not signal, or perhaps you saw me check my text and go over the fog line into the berm for a moment. Any of those things would be reasons why you might pull me over. Is that how you would answer me? Even the Rotary Club. And I just draw your attention to that, not to say anything other than most of the people, if not all of the people cops interact with, are lying to them. Now, if you don't tell me why, no, officer, I don't know. I have no idea why you pulled me over. Technically, that's probably true, isn't it? You don't know. You probably have a good idea. But you're going to guard the truth in such a way so you look as good as you possibly can, aren't you? That's who we deal with all the time. So who is it that I can go to as a law enforcement officer when I need help, that I know is going to be honest with me, not working an angle with me? Who is that man or woman? They don't know. I would suggest that's me. 2014, Sheriff Hutchison and I had met. We met for coffee, breakfast. I told him I cared about him and his office, prayed for his men and women. Anything I can do, the conversation came up, would you consider being the staff chaplain? Sure, I would. What is a staff chaplain? So we worked through those details. I was appointed and I started working with serving the deputies. So I come in, hello, I'm Curt Stauffer. I'm the new chaplain sheriff appointed. And I'm going to ride along with you and your cruiser for tonight. And I want you to just bare your soul to me so I can help you navigate every problem you have. Yeah, you are. You're here because you care about me. Sure you are. I wasn't trusted either. They didn't know who I was. Some clown the sheriff appointed to help me. Baloney. He's here to learn whatever he can, circle back around the admin and let them know what's going on. I remember when I first started going home and telling my wife, it's like, sweetie, this is probably going to take 5 years for them to let me in. Now, those of you that know law enforcement will interact with you, will be kind to you, but you're not going to get past a certain spot. I told my wife it's going to take me a while, but I'm going to do this. Okay. Well, thankfully, it took about 1.5 years. And the guys recognized that he is here because he cares about us. They would bait me with stuff they'd tell me just to see if it would circle back through and it wouldn't. So they knew, okay, this guy is here because he cares about us. I remember one of the captains calling me into his office and saying, I can't believe you did this fast. These guys have welcomed you in. That's why you need a chaplain. Law enforcement will talk to people they trust. And sadly, that just in their view is a very small circle. Well, I'm part of that circle now. So as I started riding along, working with these folks in 2014, it became clear to me some of the counseling opportunities I had were heavy. I don't need to go into deep, they were heavy. And I thought, okay, Curt, your Tri-Way high school education, as wonderful as it was, didn't equip you for this. Born, like Joe said, born and raised in Wayne County, a Tri-Way kid, went to Akron U and got to graduate an undergrad with a business degree. And then I saw my need. Boy, if I'm going to minister to these people, if I'm going to have the opportunity, the privilege to counsel with these folks, help them through, financial challenges, marital challenges, parent challenges, all of those issues that you all have, cops have too, all of them. But then they also get to deal with things that I hope you never have to deal with. Smells, sights, sounds that hopefully you never experience. They need to. And I want to be there to help walk them through that. But I saw a need to get more training. So I got a master's degree in ministry, focused on counseling to try to help these men and women navigate some of the challenges they deal with. And also when we would go and as a chaplain, I just ride along unarmed and go to different calls with my guys. And we'd go to a burglary or a domestic or whatever. And I would notice these deputies would try to handle the task at hand, but they were always making sure I was okay. The only reason I'm there is because I want to make sure they're okay. I want to make sure they go home healthy and happy and safe. So I quickly learned that I was somewhat of a distraction in that arena. So I asked several of them, would it be a blessing to you if I went through the academy? Oh, chaplain, we're not going to ask you to do that at your age. Yeah, that's hard to misunderstand, isn't it? It is hard to misunderstand that. It's like, I didn't ask you that. Would it be a blessing? Would it be a help to you if I did that? Yeah. So I asked several. Yeah, it would, Curt. Circled around to the sheriff. Would it be a help to you, Curt? We love what you're doing here. The deputies, the staff love you, but I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm asking you, sir, if it would be a help. Yeah, it would. So my next assignment was to go home and talk to my wife. Sweetie, can I maintain my full-time job go to class every night and every other weekend to do this. And I forget what it was, 6, 7, 8 months long. It was a huge commitment. And my wife's just, I remember, if those of you that know my wife, she's wonderful. She's a sweet girl, married for 34 years. She said, honey, I've never seen you so perfectly fitted for a role as this. So we'll make it work. And if you just envision what that would mean in your home, if you or your mate was pretty much not there for 8 months, they'd come, they'd eat, they'd sleep, but all of the responsibilities I had, she picked up. So graduated through the academy, got commissioned. Well, now I'm riding along with our guys, deputized with a sidearm, with the authority to do whatever needs done at these calls. So now I'm more of a help to them, which is what I want to do. So that's how I kind of got started. I wanted to let you know what I do, how I do what I do. Okay, you're a chaplain, you care for the staff. What does that look like? It's different to each element. We have dispatchers, we have 911 callers, we have the operators that answer those calls, and their challenges source in the same call for service, but it's different. They hear the screams, they hear the tension in the voice, they hear the trauma in the setting, and then they dispatch us, and once the officer gets there, they hang up. What happened? How did it end? Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it is awkward not having the closure they should. We had a terrible tragedy on 71 in April. And the dispatcher, did I hear them say they can't find one of their own? Is that what I heard? Because sometimes the radio traffic isn't as crystal clear as you would hope. So they're struggling to even, did I hear what I think I heard? So what do I now do? And all of those emotions and stress, our dispatchers get to handle. And who do they race to for just somebody to talk to? Go home and dump on their spouse? I hope not, because that would lead to a lot more marital counseling. So there needs to be someone in their life that they can go to, that they trust, that will help them navigate these challenges that they face. And that's our dispatchers. I also work with our corrections officers. They work in the jail. They handle as a patrol officer would bring in an inmate, that can be as calm and pleasant as you folks sitting here right now, or it can be as aggressive and full of conflict that you can possibly imagine. And that's part of their day. They watch people, they care for people to try to keep the inmates safe. And some of the inmates are trying to hurt themselves. They're trying to hurt others. They're trying to hurt the officers. And they get to navigate that their entire shift. Well, that generates some challenges, some anxiety, some internal stress. So I get the privilege to help them navigate through that as corrections officers. I also love riding along with our officers. But one of the first things I realized when you do that, those folks who work patrol for any length of time, they have several calls that they remember with frightening detail. I'll be in a cruiser with an officer and he will recount, yeah, it was in 89. And the call came in at 9:41 at night. It was raining. It was a Thursday. Who remembers 9:41 on a Thursday from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? Some of these calls, you don't unsee, you don't unhear, you don't unsmell what you experience. And again, sadly, we've not done a good job in this field, giving them the tools, giving them the equipment to process that, to deal with that. Well, now here's somebody in their car that actually cares about them. And here comes all this stuff that they haven't processed. And I get the privilege to help them process that. I was working with a detective, and I'll tell you this briefly, just to help us see. He was investigating the death of a body. We investigate bodies. What made this one difficult is it was a 6-month-old that died. And we would all want to know that this little person that died wasn't murdered, wouldn't we? Yeah. Who is it that gets to determine that? Law enforcement. They investigate that. The detectives investigate the circumstances around that event. And as I was talking to this detective, it wasn't one of ours in county, it was out of county. I hear the details, and my mind initially goes to, man, what if my son, one of my kids, died at 6 months old? What if a grandchild died? But when I was talking to this detective, he said, Curt, you know what I feel like? Asking that mom whose baby's over there if she murdered her own child. We expect the deputies to ask, the detectives to ask those questions, though. But you know what it does inside that detective to have to ask mom and dad if they murdered their kid? Those are some of the emotions that you probably don't even think about. Cops, we're big, we're strong, we're in control, we've got everything dialed in. And we need to. If you call us to your house for service, you can't have anybody showing up and falling apart. I get that. But some of the events we deal with are pretty hard. And we're guys that don't race out to get help. But if a chaplain's there, a chaplain is working with them, they know me, they trust me, they'll talk to me. And I can help them work through that. Another element of what I deal with would be the administration. And they have the responsibility to care for all the nuances and organizational decisions, the budget, the staff, all of those things. But just one note I've paid attention to in the last few years, some of the training I've been to in different areas. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, law enforcement take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. 50 years ago, everybody upheld the Constitution of the United States. Now, not so much. So what do you do as an administration, as a deputy, who swear to uphold the Constitution and mandates, orders, laws come through that don't? We haven't had to make those choices yet, but they likely are coming. So I'm there as well to encourage our administrators to do what's right, to do what's honorable. Don't look for what is easy, what is expedient, but what is right. And they know I'm there because I care about them. I want them to go home healthy. I want them to be supported. I want them to be cared for amidst all of the challenges that we deal with. And not everything the chaplain does. Some of that sounded heavy. You're looking at me kind of heavy, and it is. But some of the stuff I do is pretty fun too. I married two of my, I didn't marry them. I have a wife. I performed the ceremonies to two of my deputies, which was a thrill. They came to me and said, "Hey, chaplain, we'd be honored if you would perform the wedding. My girlfriend and I'd like to get married." What a thrill. What a thrill that is. And I get to do that. So being a chaplain has some real delights as well. So I love the opportunity. And that's briefly what I do. I will, I guess, try to be respectful of your time. But I'm not a big statistic guy to dump a bunch of statistics at you. But one of the things I try to do is be preemptive in how I try to help our officers. I'll give you one statistic. and it fluctuates a few tenths of a percentage point, but round numbers, a law enforcement officer is 4 times more likely to take his own life than to die by felonious gunfire. That's frightening. That our law community is 4 times more likely to end their own life. So what do? Well, I'm in their cars with them as much as I can be. I'm talking to them and I'm trying to help them as I get trained and as I have the opportunity to help them choose healthy choices. Try to make them more aware of what is proper, what is not proper, so that as they have these tragic things, traumatic things jump into their laps, they can process that in an appropriate way, rather than being overwhelmed to the point this next call is going to push them over the edge. If they're close to the edge and their wheels are coming off, I want that phone call. But I want to minister to them. I want to serve them long before that phone call ever needs made. And I see a move in our country, state, to value more of this type of care for law enforcement. But I would encourage you folks, you care about our community, you care about the people. We can't have just, I don't even know the best way to say this, but we need to make sure you're healthy. I can't just say, okay, we provided, you watched that half-hour training on suicide prevention, right? Okay, check, move on. Is she healthy? I don't know. It's checked. She watched the training. And I'm not going to minimize the training. I'm not going to minimize a video to help us become more aware. But there's really no replacing somebody that you look at that you know is there because they care for you and they want to minister to you. So that's what I try to do. Thank you so much for your kind attention. What a delight it has been to be invited here. And I can be around if you have any questions for me.
We have time for a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm sure that somebody in the audience has questions.
You talked about stress disorders. What's it like what about domestic violence? How often do those become for the officer?
How often? That's a hard thing to answer. Domestic calls are really volatile. When let's say the man's the aggressor, the female's the victim. When she calls in a call for service, she's distraught, he's being hurt, and we're on our way. Sometimes when we're on our way, she realizes that the 2 kids she has aren't his. And if she tells us everything that happens, she's not going to get to live in this home. So till we get there, now all of a sudden the dynamics have changed. It's hard to figure out. And that's why domestics can be so volatile. Now, rather than I'm a victim, he's the aggressor, it's you're the bad guy. You're in the black shirt with a badge. You're the bad guy. We don't want you here, even though you were called here. How often? I really don't even have a statistic for that. But I will tell you, domestics we need to be cautious. Typically, 2 man crew try to show up to those just for that very reason. Sorry, I don't have a nice number for you, sir.
Along that same line, there's a lot of discussion these days that some calls like that would be better served by a social worker or a psychologist being the first responder. What are your thoughts on that?
When I was working in dispatch for a moment, and not working there, listening, helping there, sitting down with them, a call came in. Woman was distraught. They put something in my ear. I need a deputy here now. Okay, what jumps in your mind? What's in your ear and who put it there, right? Our dispatcher was gracious and took this lady carefully through aliens, put a transmitter in her ear. And that can cause us to snicker a bit. But she believed aliens put a transmitter in her ear. She wasn't joking. She really believed that. So to answer your question, I think mental health is becoming an increasing reality that we need to do something to address. That woman did not need a gun to show up at her house. She needed somebody there to help her understand what she was walking through that easily could have been a social worker, a mental health counselor. So yes. Now, how do you do that? I'll let some of you brilliant people in the audience figure out that how is to do that. But yes, sir, there would be a need for that. Anything else?
I wonder, while you're traveling around in the cars, people tell you things that might put them in legal jeopardy. Do they feel that what they tell you is a privileged communication? And is that in fact true? Are you bound by the same kind of guidelines that a lawyer would need, for example?
Excellent question. Thank you for bringing it up. Sorry, I did not. Yes, as an ordained minister, the information they would tell me in that chaplain deputy setting is completely privileged. It can't be subpoenaed, it's protected. So yes, that is all privileged communication.
So as a follow-up to that, what happens if that person in that privileged information tells you something that affects the department or the community well-being? How do you handle balancing that privileged information and the needs of the community and or the department?
Depending on what that is, Greg, depending on what that is, if they're going to hurt themselves or someone else, I have to report them. Okay, so privilege goes so far. And yet if they're disgruntled with their supervisor, their whatever, that gives me an opportunity to help navigate how they're thinking, how they're processing. But it's not something that I would be able to raise the flagpole or run up the flagpole to the admin and saying, hey, this character's loose. I couldn't do that.
Well, thank you very much, Curt. We really appreciate it. An appreciation for your time today with us, and we'd like to present you with a rendition of the rotary wheel with the four-way test on back. And this is made locally by students at the Village Network.
So
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And I'm sure all the veterans in the crowd know that the military has exactly the same kinds of issues that police, deputies, firemen. PTSD is a real problem, and thank God they have people like Curt out there helping on the front line, not after the fact. So we are pleased to have so many guests here today. We really appreciate you coming and hope you come back and join us again. Next week's program is our one and only County Commissioner Ron Armstutz, giving us the complete update on everything going on in Wayne County. So I thank all of you and have a safe week. We stand adjourned.